discussion with them if they seem unaware or are in denial. For advice on how to start that very difficult discussion, we are joined now by Dr. Janine Hubbard for this week's Get Psyched with Dr. Janine. Great to see you.
Oh, good evening. And I'm so glad we're able to talk about this because this is such a challenging topic and it's something I actually get asked fairly frequently.
So how do we start this difficult discussion?
Well, first of all, I should give the caveat, this doesn't apply if you have someone where you are concerned that they are an immediate danger to themselves or others. That's a whole different pathway that we can always talk about another time, but call emergency services. This is if you've noticed changes in the behavior of a loved one and you're just not sure how to start it. The biggest thing to remember is to be non-judgmental, non-confrontational. If you can, set up a one-on-one time, arrange to go for tea, arrange to go for a walk, and really start the conversation by saying, look, I'm approaching you because I'm concerned. Tell me if you need me to back off. Tell me, you know, I'll respect your boundaries. But really normalize the conversation, especially at the moment. We have seen people who their entire lives have been, you know, maybe having the odd little struggle, but COVID has just put things over the edge. So normalize that a lot of people are struggling right now, and that we're often not aware of it in ourselves. I give the analogy that, you know what, most of us don't notice if we put on a pound or two. We don't notice until perhaps it's been 10 or 20 pounds. It's the same thing with mental health issues. They come on gradually and without us necessarily noticing, and it's far more obvious to others. So if you can explain it that way, and then being really mindful of stages of change, readiness of change. Sometimes people are just ready to hear some information, and sometimes they may not even be ready at that stage yet, and be respectful of that and step away from it a little bit.
So once you've started that discussion, what would be the next steps?
The first thing is come prepared with your information. Talk to them about perhaps some reading that you've done, or give them a couple of concrete examples where you've seen them really struggling. And then, I can't stress this enough, ask them what they need for help. And it might be right now, and it might also be leaving the door open for a discussion in the future. But one of the biggest struggles I hear from people is the fear of making that first phone call or that email. Offer to do it for them. Offer to be there with them. If they're sending an email, help them compose it. Call after hours and leave a voicemail for a service. But help them with that first step in reaching out, and then remind them that this is just step one in a long process. You know, be prepared that they might not want to hear it yet, and don't get defensive about it. Leave it open so that you can revisit perhaps when a future episode occurs, or perhaps when they are sort of starting to reflect on what you've said to them and say, well, maybe actually I do need to talk about this.
Are there websites, places people can go to help them with this whole process of speaking with someone?
What I would say is the best thing you can do is equip yourself with some information. Like I say, document. Take a look at where have you seen that they've really been struggling, and show where it's kind of showing some impairment on them. So if you can kind of have some concrete examples for that, but then, as I've sort of said, look in terms of getting some background information, say, actually, you know what I'm seeing kind of sound, you know, I'm not an expert in this, but this sounds like it might be OCD symptoms. It sounds like it might be depression. Of course, there's always the Bridge the Gap for resources. And then again, help them explore. Help them say, I don't know, maybe you have workplace insurance. Do you want me to call HR and find out what you have? So looking out there to see kind of what is around, what is available, but again, being respectful that it's going to happen on their time and on their agenda, and they may not be ready, even if they're respectful and receptive in that first conversation. It's beginning a journey, it's beginning a process of keeping an open dialogue, and again, making sure they know that you are addressing this. It's hard, and even acknowledge how hard it is, but it's because you love them, you care for them, and you're worried about them.
Dr. Janine Hubbard, thank you for this great advice. And before you go, I just want to say, I know you aren't 90, you're nowhere near 90, but I do want to say happy birthday to you. I know you've got a big birthday coming up this weekend.
Thank you so much, and thank you to my lovely family here at NTV. They surprised me with some really nice treats this evening. Thank you, guys.
Okay, take care.